Hey, this
Hey,
is Sean Hui, and I would like to introduce our very first guest. I've known him since 1999. We went to high school together back in Detroit. He has a master's from Syracuse University in broadcasting. He's been a good friend over the years. John Davis, welcome to the show. Welcome to Mentoring Moments, episode 1 of Infinity.
all
Uh,
right. So much for having me, Sean. Glad to be here.
All right, so basically, how the format is for episode 1, it's not going to be like the other episodes. So, the other episodes, it's going to be 3 parts. I'm going to talk about a mental health topic. And
Hmm.
number 2, we're going to talk about the small business that the guest of their choice. And number 3 is we'll just go over really quickly how we know each other, how we built that relationship. Because I'm learning how important it is in business to have resources, build relationships, and gain skills. Right, John?
For sure. I feel like all of those, and I would kind of add communication in there too, but I think that's probably a skill.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And people tell me all the time that my skill is in maintaining the relationships.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I think from my perspective of you, you have a very unique way of creating and cultivating relationships with people. But then, like you said, I think you do a good job of maintaining those, whether it is, probably you probably have some daily relationships, you probably have some weekly relationships, some monthly, some bi-monthly relationships. But whatever it is, like, especially if we're talking about you and I feel like wherever we left off, like the last time we talked or something like that, I feel like we could just kind of pick up from there. So I think that's probably your superpower, if that makes sense when it comes to relationships.
I still remember visiting you in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This is 15 years ago, and we still have inside jokes from your neighbor.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that I had a dog next door. It wasn't mine, but I had a dog that didn't seem to like me or you for a particular reason. And so yeah, no, maybe RIP to that dog. But probably passed away by now. But anyway, it's a little morbid. But yeah, no, so that's what I'm saying. Like we're able to create these, interpersonal relationships. I mean, one of the first things I remember about you is I feel like the first time we met, and I could be wrong, I feel like we met in the Cranbrook Library.
That's what I remember. Weren't
Okay,
we
yeah.
trying to figure out our fantasy baseball teams?
We were either doing that, and then so like in the library, I remember, at that time, if you want to buy something on eBay, it was back before PayPal, before payments, like you'd have to send a money order, so like, or send a check. So we would do different things like that. We hung out in the dorms, played video games after school. Your younger brother was attending the middle school, so he would come over. Our other friend, his younger brother was at the middle school, so they would come. So we just kind of just had like a little gathering kind of in the dorms as people were kind of getting ready to leave campus for the day. So yeah, we never had a class together or anything like that. But yeah, I remember just kind of meeting in the library and just kind of having common bonds over sports. And I think that's one of the things that we've always done together. Like we've been to hockey before, we've been to baseball before, we've been to golf. Obviously, that's the background right there. Have we been to any other sporting events together?
Yeah, you have a good point. Even though we didn't play sports together, because you did cross country and track, and
Right.
I did baseball and tennis and hockey, we stayed in touch the 3 years of our overlap in high school,
Hmm.
and we had a good common friend, Dr. Bruni,
Right.
because yeah, I met him on the hockey team. I was a year older than you, and we met probably at the tail end of your freshman year, my sophomore year.
I think
So we
that's
had
right.
we had 2 years going strong. And here's my favorite memory of us in high school. I believe we were with Dr. Bruni's family, and we went to, it was probably where the Red Wings used to play back in the day.
Joe
And
Louis Arena. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was probably the CCHA championships. which shows how old we are because the CCHA, I don't think that exists anymore.
Oh, I thought we actually went to a Red Wings game. We didn't go to a Red Wings game that time together.
No, we went to see Nebraska Omaha blow out University of Michigan.
I don't remember. All I remember is knowing that like you love hockey, doctor loves hockey, so like we just went, and I remember going with his father drove us. Like that's what I remember about it. And then I remember like getting dropped off at my dad's house because it was like kind of close to where, relatively speaking, like I lived closer to downtown Detroit than anyone else.
I just remember him telling us, Mike Comrie's going to be a superstar in the NHL. He's so good. And I said, okay, okay. So he
Who
did
told
make
us
the
that?
NHL.
Who told us that?
Bruni told us that.
Oh, really? Look,
Yeah,
but
he just,
didn't he make the NHL?
yeah, he married Hillary Duff.
Oh, then he won.
he reached the he reached the pinnacle of a hockey player's career path, make the NHL, marry a
And
celebrity.
yeah, yeah. And isn't that the Mike Fisher story?
That is the Mike Fisher story.
Probably some other ones too. But yeah, no. So I guess what I would ask you, as we're kind of talking like pre-production, this is kind of like a behind the scenes episode of your show, like a prequel almost. Kind of explain to me again, like tell me the name of it and explain to me like what is the purpose of it from your perspective.
The the name of the show is we're starting with motivating moments. And what we want to do is we want to it's two reasons. The first reason is we're doing all these recordings so that when Matthew's son grows up, he can watch them and then he'll know what was my uncle, what was my brother and their friends like in 2024. And the second reason is for my friends to get camera time, get public speaking time,
Mhm.
because you've got all the public speaking experience, being on TV, being on radio, being in broadcasting. I mostly did it through Toastmasters and presenting in academia.
Mhm.
I've probably, it wasn't really good for me that I started out in eighth grade at a Michigan State summer camp presenting to about 400 people. And that's probably the biggest crowd I've presented to where I did a solo speech in my life.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably right. I don't think the Chicago Blackhawks game counts because I didn't talk. I just stood out there on the center ice.
No, I think that's a good concept. I think that a lot of people could benefit from having a forum to improve their public speaking skills. I think a lot of people can, benefit from just having a forum and a safe space to talk about, you know, mental health. Because I know that that's one of the main portions of this show as well, right?
Yeah, so basically the history behind that is, and I wasn't going to reveal it too much because that's going to be for a later episode where we'll switch places and you can decline if you don't have time. You will be the host. I'll be
Okay.
the guest on the show and I'll explain how this show started. And it stems back probably 4 years ago. It's some crazy stuff that happened. And I was just going to do an Instagram live for about 4 minutes and
Hmm.
just explain to my 10 followers what happened
Yeah.
and how devastated I felt that day
Hmm.
and how upset I was with how I was mistreated. And it actually didn't occur to me that all the other things I did instead that week actually helped reinforce previous relationships and create new relationships moving forward. So that'll be a really good episode. It should only take about an hour to explain all that. And since we're on free Zoom, we'll have to
Two
have an
parts.
intermission and
Yes.
show some commercials for Teslas or for minor league baseball. Today we are sponsored by the El Paso Chihuahuas alter ego, the Margaritas.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, that
Now,
when we went to the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, I
yeah, I was
think that was my second minor league stadium.
really, because I was going to bring that up because I was going to say the only minor league baseball game that I've ever been to with you is the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. But I know that since then you've been to dozens. What is it about minor league baseball that you like?
Minor league baseball, we weren't around yet, but people tell me that when they were growing up as kids back in the 50s and the 60s, people didn't have internet. They didn't have a lot of entertainment, but
Hmm.
almost every town had a hometown minor league baseball team or a college summer league team.
Right.
That was their entertainment. That was their summer. Minor league baseball was the backbone of America.
Hmm.
It's cheap family fun. And at first, I was hesitant to invest so much time in these minor league games because I felt like that it was lacking in skill level until I saw my friend do it in 2021. And I realized a lot of these players are still better than everybody else.
Way better.
Yeah, they're not getting paid a lot. They're just doing it because they love baseball.
I would say they're probably in the maybe not if the major leagues are the 1%. I would say they're probably in the 2 to 3% best players in the world of baseball.
I would say, I would go even further and say they're in the 0.1%, and then
Okay.
MLB's in the 0.005%.
Okay. So they're
And
definitely
what's Shohei? Shohei's a one in a trillion.
true. Yeah, one of one. No, that makes a really good point. And then I guess one of the other cool things about maybe the experience you have with minor league baseball is that it allows you to travel to places where you probably wouldn't travel to as well, right? Because like a lot of these different places, like because that's the El Paso team, right?
Right.
El Paso is probably not a natural draw for you. I suppose if you're like driving cross country or something like that, but to like purposely go to these different places, that's probably pretty cool too.
Yes, the first town that I would have never made it to is Salisbury, Maryland. I think I have the pronunciation correct.
Yeah.
It's the Delmarva Shorebirds. That's the Orioles low A ball team.
Okay.
And it's such a unique place because they have a museum dedicated to all the players from the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia island,
Hmm.
like Delano DeShields.
Okay. Yeah, his daughter plays in the WNBA, Diamond DeShields. So I'm
Oh,
familiar.
that's cool.
Yeah.
His son plays in Indie League. I saw him playing in Lancaster. I can't remember who they were playing.
But yeah, he was in the MLB for a long time, right?
Yeah, he was too good for Indie League. He's not good enough for MLB, but too good for Independent League.
Well, at one point he was good enough for Major League Baseball. He made it.
Do you know who plays for Staten Island's Independent League team? Kung Fu Panda.
What's his name?
He's the third baseman, Pablo Sandoval.
Really? Now
Yeah.
that's the thing that I don't really understand. And maybe you can add a little bit of insight from your perspective about independent league. What is it about independent league, which is kind of outside of the minor league system, that is going to make a former MLB player, especially somebody who's been a starter, played like, a key role on a team, maybe even help the team make the playoffs or win a World Series like Pablo. Like, what is it about that environment that's going to make somebody like still want to play independent baseball as opposed to just like literally just like hanging up the cleats?
Well, I haven't talked to them personally, but I think that they just want to keep playing for the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because don't they only make like $2,000 a month?
You tell me, but yeah, I guess that's what it is. I guess, and like independent is for the fun of it because minor league baseball, a lot of the goal of that is to be looking for constant promotion, right? Like
Right.
you're trying to go from low A to A, and then you're trying to go to what is it, double A, and then triple A, and then like that's it. Like some people kind of get stuck at the low A or stuck at the double A, and and something like that. Um,
We're actually gonna have my friend be a guest, and he played double A baseball in the 90s.
okay,
He can talk about it. He's
okay.
a life coach now in
Yeah.
Arizona.
The other thing that I'd kind of like to talk about, if we're talking like pre-production for this show, is you mentioned a little bit about wanting to have a forum for people to kind of talk about, the different things they're doing, their different businesses, their platforms, and things like that. Why do you feel like that's important?
It's actually the secondary reason, and I just want people to have additional audiences that they wouldn't previously had. For example, if Garrett is gonna have his fan base watch an episode and say they watch Ricky's episode. Ricky's the life coach.
Hmm.
So Garrett's got a lot of haters that follow him and they
Hmm.
hate on his workouts.
Hmm.
So they're trying to be elite athletes. And Ricky was a professional baseball player and he works with elite athletes on the mental game. So
Okay.
the overlap exists in many facets. I'll go into more detail with my personal story. Uh, Long story short, basically, I bought a Derek Jeter Topps 1993 rookie card from Ricky at a card show on the way to the Orioles high A ball team, Aberdeen
Mhm.
Ironbirds. That's
Okay.
Ripken's team.
Okay.
And we just saw this card show was there on the way. And Ricky was traveling across country with his wife. And he just saw there was a card show in the area. So he had to have someone back home ship him his cards from Arizona. And we just got to talking and we stayed in touch. And I want to say 2 years later, I see him recommending this book, Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy. He played minor league baseball with Jim. And as I'm reading the book, it talks about certain elite athletes, professional athletes that he personally worked with. And I met one of those athletes later that day, the same day that I finished the book. In the last chapter, he named names. I was able to one on one have kind of like a fireside chat after the round about his experiences. And that we will discuss in my episode when I am the guest on your
So
show. Yes.
I think you're doing a really good job of teasing, your story. And I guess the other thing that I would just want people to kind of take away is just the importance of having a forum to talk about mental health. Because I would say that if you are a person, then you have mental health. Like as long as you can think and you can process things and you are of, that level of aptitude, you know, you're going to have some sort of mental health, concerns, mental health. I can even use the word issues, feelings, and things like that. And so, being able to, create a forum to inspire people to, at points share your story and figure out how like you relate to them, but then also like just giving them a safe space to talk, I think is super important. And
Thanks,
then
John.
I do want to add this. Um, my baseball perspective, I haven't really been to an MLB game in a while. I think I've been to one. But one thing I love about baseball is I love the actual, like, and I haven't done the Arizona league, but I love the Florida spring training leagues, specifically going to Tiger Town and Lakeland. Like for me, that's a lot of fun. And it's to me, it's kind of like a mix between minor league baseball and MLB because it's in a small stadium. You can kind of just sit wherever you want. Like one time, I remember I bought a ticket for $20. I was sitting next to the scouts behind home plate, like, or you can just kind of go to the outfield or sit on the berm. I think that's what it's called. But um, I think spring training is also a really cool environment. Have you been to spring training before?
Didn't we go to a Braves game?
Yeah, we did. We went to that's right. We did go to a Braves game. We went to I forgot what they call the field, but it's on Disney property. It's like
Yeah.
Indians. But yeah.
You know, Matthew and I went to a Mets versus Astros game in
Hmm.
2020, about a week before they shut it down
Okay.
for 4 months. And we just remember because it was recently after the trash can scandal. And we
Yeah.
just remember every time Springer and Altuve came up to bat, like people were just booing and banging trash cans.
That was a big deal. Yeah, I mean, I think some of the coolest ones I've been to is the like the mini Camden Yard the Orioles have. I've been to that one, and then the mini green wall, the one that the Red Sox share with the Twins. They still share with the Twins?
In Fort Myers.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know they shared with the Minnesota team.
maybe they don't. Maybe I'm making that up, but I know that they have their own, the Red Sox. So no, I think baseball is cool, and I think what you said about like why you're attracted to it is really cool because it is nostalgia. It is something that like even still, I think it's still that non-internet entertainment for families. You know, people can get into the locality of it. Like you just go because you want to experience the event. Like you're not going to see like to say like, oh, I want, the the Oakville Octopus to win today. Like, yeah, you want them to win, but if they lose, it doesn't matter. It's one of those things where you're just experiencing it. You're experiencing the game. The other thing I love about minor league baseball and spring training, I'll kind of group them up together. The stadiums are never that big. So you're always like, basically like a whatever a A-level ticket would be. Like every seat is A-level. Every ticket is just like no more than like what? You never more than like what, 20 rows from the field?
You're right. When I went to single A in Wisconsin, the furthest we could sit was row 13.
Right. And that's the as far as you can sit. So imagine like only sitting row 13 to watch the Yankees or the Red Sox or something like that. And then the cool thing about it is like, especially if you do spring training, you're literally watching those players, except in a condensed, smaller version. And then if you think about the future version of it, like you're watching future MLB players, because inevitably somebody from, if you watch enough minor league baseball, you're eventually going to watch a future MLB pro. Like I remember going to the MLB futures game and watching Verlander pitch. Like I think he only threw an inning, but I'm just like, okay, this is cool. Like, and like at the time, I didn't really know who Justin Verlander was. Like, I knew he was in the futures game, so they must think he's going to be decent.
He
But
played summer ball for the Wilson Tobbs
yeah,
in North
so
Carolina.
they think, oh yeah, he's going to be decent. But then to turn out to like say like, oh yeah, I watched the Hall of Famer playing this rookie All Star game. Like that's cool. So like the memories with minor league baseball in particular, the memories get better over time because you're seeing them before they are what they are.
And I've always done it for Ontario Hockey League
Hmm.
because growing up in Michigan, we had access to Plymouth Whalers, Saginaw Spirit, Windsor Spitfires. I remember James and I went to Windsor to see Steven Stamkos when he was 17 years old. Matthew and I went to Plymouth when they were playing the London Knights. We saw Patrick Kane when he was 17 years old. And
Yeah,
then when I was living in Spokane, I got to see Leon Draisaitl as a 16-year-old, Matthew Barzal as a 16-year-old. We saw all these great players, and we knew that given the proper environment and the proper physical and mental training, they were going to be all stars.
yeah.
I regret not going up to Erie back in 2015 to watch Connor McDavid.
And that could be something that you talk about with, the former players and the life coaches and things like that, or people who have combined those two is like when you were at this level, let's say, most of them would probably at some sort of prodigy stage. Some of them not, but most of them were like on that trajectory. But like what would they tell their younger selves, or like what were they doing then to prepare themselves for it now? Like, there's this, I don't want to call it epidemic, but I'll say epidemic in hockey, where, or sports in general, where people like purposely try to make their child the oldest on the team, because if you're older than the other people you're playing against or your opponents, you're more physically mature. I mean, the difference between a 18-year-old and a 15-year-old is what, 20% of their life, or more than that, whatever the statistical number is. And
I
so,
didn't realize that was a problem.
yeah, oh, for sure. When I cover high school football, like there are some freshmen who start off and they're 16. If you do it right, you can be a double holdback. So you take eighth grade once and you take it again. So you could, because all you have to do, especially in California where I am, is what you have to do is not turn 19 before the season starts. So if
Wow.
you turn 19 in the September of your senior year, you can play the whole year as a 19-year-old, if that makes sense. But you can only do that if you've like purposely set yourself up to be like held back. So you're starting, as a 16-year-old freshman, and then a 17-year-old sophomore, and then an 18-year-old junior, and then you're 19 your senior year. But me, when I graduated high school, I was 17 still. So like in theory, I could have easily held back 1 year because I only would have been 18 the whole year, my senior year. Or, if my birthday was a little later in September, I probably could have held back another year because I was as an 18-year-old, but then graduated at 19. But for sure, I could have easily held back 1 year. Because, for example, this is funny. I remember being a sophomore on the cross country team. Okay. And there was this ninth grader who came in and was running just as fast as me, a little better than me. I'm like, why is this freshman running faster than me? You know why, Sean?
Because he's older than you.
He's 4 days older than me.
Yeah.
We're the same age.
That's so crazy.
We're the
That's
same.
like
We're
the
the same.
opposite. That's like the opposite of Bryce
That's why.
Harper.
That's why he can
Yeah.
run this as well, as we're the same age.
Remember Bryce Harper graduated high school early so he could be
Mm-hmm.
drafted as a 17-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And then Austin Matthews, he graduated high school early so that he could play in Switzerland as a 17-year-old.
Yeah, and so that's why I would be curious if, during your conversations, if you could find the people who are like, because at the end of the day, I think the truly elite people are the 17-year-olds who can play against people older. Like, for example, there's a guy on Alabama.
Gretzky.
Yeah, there's a wide receiver on Alabama now who just played Georgia the other day, and he's 17. He purposely reclassified from, instead of graduating school in 2025, he said, I want to graduate in 2024. So he graduated school early, enrolled in Alabama, and is playing and contributing, and is almost their best wide receiver already as a 17-year-old. So imagine if this guy would have spent, he easily could have spent 2 more years in high school, because he wasn't even supposed to graduate till he was 18. And
So he
now
wouldn't be challenged.
yeah, and now I just showed you how you could also graduate at 19 and not break any rules.
Wayne
So,
Gretzky always said that he thanked his parents for letting him play against people 4 years older than him. Because when he
mhm,
got to the NHL and he was the smallest player, he was already used to dominating the players that were bigger and faster than him.
right. But imagine what Wayne Gretzky would have been if he just would have played against, you know, seven people his age.
He
Would he?
would have been so bored because he would have dominated.
Yeah. So would he even be Wayne Gretzky? I don't know. I mean, that's a topic. That's a discussion point
We're gonna have some professional athletes on the show.
for sure.
Yeah. All right, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's good. So I would just kind of wrap it up. I'm John Davis. If you want to check me out, you can follow me on Twitter at John W. Davis. Same for Instagram. You can find me on there. Um, and
We'll
then I
definitely put your links in the
yeah,
comments.
yeah. So for you, I would just say, just tell everybody, like where they can find you offline if they want to follow you, like outside of the YouTube ecosystem.
I think they would be bored of all my pictures with celebrities and pictures of golfing.
I don't think people will be bored of pictures with celebrities. People live with celebrities.
Pictures of golfing with celebrities.
People that is probably a niche. Somebody loves that.
Pic- Pictures of eating lunch with celebrities.
Somebody loves that too.
I remember I remember Garrett, just as a test, he just posted on his Instagram story him eating breakfast and it got 20,000 hits.
You don't know what people like until you put it out there. And I think that was my takeaway that I wanted to leave with this episode is like that's the importance of consistency. Like if you got stuff going on and just share it. Or like you're doing, like you're saying, like this is for your nephew. You're literally documenting history right now
Right.
for future consumption, which I think is amazing. Because like imagine if we would have not that they had the technology, but imagine if they would have had, this in the 1800s. So we could go back and watch and see everything that was happening. That would be fascinating. So I think for future generations, this is fascinating for people to be able to have access to this long term.
I think a lot of people are leaning towards YouTube creators as opposed to watching reality TV now on cable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
everyone has their niche.
yeah, and it seems more real. That's a whole different conversation. But at least the YouTube seems more real because we pretty much all know that reality TV is essentially
Staged.
essentially scripted
It's
television.
scripted.
Yeah, yeah. If
But
not
we're
staged,
not going to talk about that.
yeah, I don't want to get into it because I mean it's its own thing, and for a lot of people, they love the mindlessness of it. Like, oh, I can just kind of zone out and just watch it. And there's nothing wrong with mindless entertainment. We all need to relax.
Yeah. See, people have been telling me for years, oh, why don't you do a YouTube channel about trading options and all your strategies? And my fear was that, well, I know you have to have the legal disclaimer. This is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I didn't want somebody else to steal my strategy, sell it as their own, and then other people start doing the strategy, and then it no longer works.
Hmm.
So I feel much more comfortable and much more accomplished creating original content, going the way we're going.
No
And
original
it's just
content
with
waiting.
friends I already have. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm not going to have my people call Kevin Costner's people and try to get him to be on the show. This is not Fallon. This is just people that I already know or I've met organically just to
Yeah.
show how small the world is. For example, I was downtown last night talking to a guy. We found out we're both from Michigan, and I lived across the hall from his little sister at Michigan State.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. And now we're both in DC.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Well,
cool.
thank you for being the first guest on
You're welcome.
Motivating Moments.
Thank you.
That title's still in development, as is this background picture. What we're looking at in the background is Kiwa Island Ocean Course in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay. Interesting. All right. That's cool. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much for having me, Sean. I'll see you around.
Bye, John.
Bye.